Good evening, everyone. I have a topic for you today I find very interesting. But first, I need to talk to those of you who saw the video I put up yesterday. First, I need to explain why I put it up and why I've taken it down. Now, I don't want to give the person or the group this person belongs to any publicity whatsoever, so I'm going to be kind of vague and hopefully I can get it through to you. I was contacted by somebody who had talked about some things I said in some of my videos. And they told me of some of their wishes and desires that I found horrific and stupid. So at first, I put this video up, and the reason during the video, if you saw it, I was kind of stammering because I was really upset and I was kind of confused. So, and at first I thought I need to put that video up. Then afterwards I went, no, I'm not going to let somebody dictate what I do, so I pulled it down. And then my third response was, I just can't take a chance. So I had to forward that message to what I believe to be the proper authorities. I did get an email from somebody on the up and up who said to me, why did you call him your president? Well, the reason I did that is because, in all honesty, he is. If you remember when Bush was in office and he was taking heat from a lot of things, and a lot of us were saying some stuff about him, the president of Venezuela came out and trashed him pretty harshly. And if you remember, Democrats and Republicans stood together and said to him, you do not talk about our president that way. We bash him, but he is our president. That is for us to do. You as another country, you as a separate entity, you as somebody who possibly could be against America, you don't have the right to talk about our president. We will deal with him. So that's why it was said. All right, tonight's topic. Now that that's out of the way, let's make this the first official video. I want to talk a little bit about my local government, my city government, and I'm going to try to say it in a way that maybe will branch out not only from city, but to state and to federal. So let me go through the story. About 4 years ago, I believe, the city I live in decided they wanted to have a millage. They told the citizens of my city that if this millage did not pass, at the end of the fiscal year, they would have to lay off firemen. They would have to lay off, excuse me, they said fire. They'd have to fire firemen, police officers, and close a fire department. Now, we were told this once before, and we said, okay, here's whatever you need, here it is. And then we found some of that money went to other things. So when they said it this time, a majority of the citizens went, you know something? We've been fooled before. We've been lied to, we've been screwed over. No, you're not getting our tax dollars. No. Well, after it was voted down overwhelmingly, the city said we need to have an emergency meeting. Well, I attended that emergency meeting. One of the people there was Councilman Green, who is now actually a state representative. I don't know why he got the promotion he did, but he said, and I quote, "The citizens of the city of Wyoming have spoken, and they have said loud and clear they do not care about their safety." This enraged me beyond belief. It pissed me off. And instead of jumping up and screaming at him, I listened. And all of a sudden they put up on the screen the budget for the city, and they started going line by line. They tried to explain why they needed this money. But I found there was a couple of times they glossed over a couple of things that I caught, and it seemed like nobody else in the room caught. One of those was that 10% of the city's budget was set aside for emergencies. That's smart. I mean, you need to do that. If there's some catastrophic emergency, for the love of God, you need some money there to deal with that. So I said to him, "Councilman, do you consider this an emergency?" And he says, "Yes, I do." I says, "Great, because you just told me we have a few $1,000,000 in this emergency fund. Use that for this, and we're all fine. The fire department stays open, they keep their jobs, the cops keep their jobs." And he went, "Well, no, that's not how it works." "Well, how does it work?" "Well, that has to be in there in case of emergencies." Now, they told us at the end of the fiscal year, this fire station would have to close, the fire department, the firefighters would be fired, the cops would be fired. Well, they didn't wait till the end of the fiscal year. This was November. They shut it down the next week, which means they were saving all that money. Where was that going? But I continued to say, wait a second. This is an emergency. Yes. Well, then the emergency money should be used for it. Well, no. Okay, fine. I understand it's not the end of the year. What about last year? What emergency did we have last year? Well, there wasn't one. Great. So we have that few $1,000,000 and we can use it to keep these open. Problem solved. I took care of it. Thank God I'm here. And he went, oh no, you don't understand. That money's gone. Really? Where is it gone? Well, it's earmarked for other projects. You have an emergency budget that is supposed to be for emergencies, and you're telling me that that money is earmarked for other projects? So you're praying that there won't be an emergency so you can use that money for other projects. But an emergency came up. You said in your own words, this is an emergency. And the money that is set aside for emergencies, you're telling me can't be used? Well, here it is, 2009, and the city of Wyoming, Michigan is talking about further budget cuts, where they may have to fire a couple of firefighters and a couple of police officers. And I ask once again, we have 10%. 10% of the city's annual budget is set aside for the emergencies. For the love of God, why isn't my money, my tax money, being used for that? Nobody will answer me. And I know why, because it could be used for it. But they've already promised it to other things, which means if there is a true emergency, we are screwed. We're kind of small town. We're a suburb of the city of Grand Rapids, right? But if something were to happen, we're absolutely screwed because they have already earmarked that money for something else. If my city is doing that, is my state? If my state is doing it, is my country? How much of my tax dollars that is set aside for emergencies that don't get used are being sent to places they don't need to be? See, if I need an emergency reserve, if I go 5 years, let's say, for instance, that 10% is $2 million. If I go 5 years without an emergency in my city, which there hasn't been one, my recollection, in the last 5 years, probably even 10, but I'll say 5. That's $10 million. $10 million. Can you imagine what my city could do with $10 million? They could make sure we have state-of-the-art equipment. Oh, by the way, in the new thing, not only do they say that cops and firefighters will be fired, one of them would be a crime scene technician, and we really only have a couple. So the people that are going to be out there solving the crimes now have to go. If here in 5 years it's $10 million and we've squandered it away on other projects, which you got to admit, if they've already said it's been earmarked, they're praying that there's no emergency they can give it to something else. That's fraud. That's theft. That's theft of taxpayer dollars. What if that's happening in a state? How much is the state budget? Do they have a 10% provision? What if it's in the national government? Do they have a 10% provision? And if there's an emergency, why isn't that money being used? All I can speak about right now is my city, but what about your city? Do they have a 10% reserve of their taxpayer dollars for emergencies? When's the last time you had a bona fide emergency in your city? Where's that money gone? I think it's time to start asking your local politicians first. Let's start there. Let's hold them to the fire, because they're the easiest ones to replace. Not everyone in the world knows who they are. Probably not even half the people in the city probably don't even know who they are. So let's start with them. Find out where they're stealing our money. And then we go to the state. And we already know where the government's stealing money, but I bet there's millions and millions, there's probably billions of dollars that we don't even know about. Well, I'm going to start looking deeper and deeper into my city, because I believe Reagan had trickled down, which I think was an amazing plan, and it worked until the Democrats turned it around, and when that failed, they blamed it all on Reagan. It's time for a little trickle-up economics. Let's find out what the hell our cities are doing. Then let's find out what our states are doing. And then we'll go after the big guns.